Cops ain't nothing but people too. I'm dumb for what? Yeah, this how we do, you know what I'm saying? Now I'm gonna do about $150 up out of here and a Suburban 2500 with 23-inch rims on it. I whip my gotta take a piss like this, but I don't got a piss.
Cops don't run the city. Not for people like him. You know what it is. He's rolling out in a Benz 500 or a Burger 2500 sitting on 23s, and he couldn't care less about checking in with anyone. He'll pull up, handle his business, and dare anyone to say something about it. Not one person on this earth is going to make DMX check in. And he meant that. No sugarcoating, no softening it. He meant every single word. What's wild is that most people heard Party Up and thought it was just a club record. It wasn't. The beat was for the club. The words were for somebody specific. Give DMX a record people can dance to, and he'll load it with something that hits harder than a fight. That's exactly what Party Up was. Disrespectful to its core, just wrapped in something the whole world wanted to move to. Because DMX was a force of nature that nobody could contain. X was wild in every sense of the word. The man kept a razor blade tucked under his tongue. He'd scrap with anyone, anywhere, and feel nothing about it. If you're listening and you think he was bluffing, he wasn't. He wasn't. Whether it was robbing someone at a gas station, pulling up after a show with Fat Joe and Big Pun in Brooklyn, spotting a guy with a chain and sticking him up right there at the pump, or standing in the middle of a New York street, taking a piss in traffic, telling pedestrians to keep it moving like nothing was happening. People walked past, heads down, and kept going. These weren't stories. These were just Tuesday for DMX. He was simply a man who could not be controlled. So sit back, because this is the story of the time DMX was supposed to check in. Los Angeles had a system. If you were a rapper, a celebrity, anyone with a name and a presence, you checked in with the streets. No debates. No skipping steps. And to understand why that mattered, think about it this way. Every country in the world controls its own airspace. If a plane enters without clearance, that's an act of war. You want to fly through, you check in first. You choose not to, you deal with the consequences. That's exactly how it worked in LA. If you were moving in the streets, making money, building influence, you went to the right people and you let them know. It wasn't weakness. It was business. Any real person who spent time in LA knew that. Same in Atlanta. The people who refused were either ignorant or chasing internet clout. Real ones handled it the right way because they needed to know which spots were safe and which ones weren't. That's just common sense. But some people felt like their name was bigger than the system. And the truth is, these weren't just street guys with titles. They had real influence in the city, and if you didn't tap in, problems had a way of finding you fast. And then DMX showed up. He didn't check in. He didn't even acknowledge that the system existed. He moved through Los Angeles like he built it himself. No phone calls, no meetings, no respect paid to anyone. Just X doing exactly what he wanted, exactly when he wanted, with zero concern for who had a problem with it. The man at the center of all of this wasn't just some random rapper. It was Corrupt, one of the most respected voices on the West Coast, Rolling 60s affiliated, and managed by Big U himself. The same Big U who helped build and enforce the check-in system across Los Angeles. When DMX skipped that step, he wasn't just breaking a rule. He was spitting in the face of an entire operation. And Corrupt was the one who had to respond. Their history ran deep, deeper than most people realize. Before West Coast rap even had a name, Corrupt was already in the streets building something real. When his name was ringing, it was ringing loud. But the situation didn't stay in the streets. It spilled into the music. It got personal. It got dangerous. And before it was over, someone was dead. To understand how all of this started, you have to go back to the beginning. Corrupt and Daz Dillinger signed to Death Row Records in 1992 at just 18 years old. Together they formed the Dog Pound, which eventually expanded into the Deep GC, the Dog Pound Gangsta Crips, a circle that included Snoop, Nate Dogg, RBX, Warren G, and more. They appeared on Dr. Dre's The Chronic, then on Doggy Style. Their debut album, Dog Food, dropped Halloween 1995 and debuted at #1 on the Billboard 200 with 270,000 copies sold in the first week. By that point, Corrupt wasn't just a rapper. He was West Coast royalty with the streets fully behind him. And Big U, his manager, was one of the most powerful figures connected to the LA Crips. When Corrupt spoke, it carried weight well beyond music. Then there was DMX, coming out of Yonkers with a criminal record so extensive that jail felt like a second home. In 1998, he signed to Def Jam and dropped It's Dark and Hell is Hot. The rap game shifted overnight. He wasn't just successful, he was untamable. And the people around him knew it. Fat Joe told a story that perfectly captured what it was like to be in DMX's orbit. One show together, him, X, and Big Pun in Brooklyn. After the show, they stop at a gas station. X spots a guy with a chain and sticks him up on the spot. Meanwhile, the whole crowd was just watching. That was the man who came to Los Angeles and didn't think twice about checking in. That was the man Corrupt and Big U had to deal with. Two immovable forces, and something had to give. Here's where it stops being about street politics and starts getting personal. By 1997, Corrupt was engaged to Brooklyn rapper Foxy Brown, hip-hop's power couple on the surface. Everything looked solid. Then DMX's career exploded. He and Foxy were both signed to Def Jam, both on the Survival of the Eyeless tour in the summer of 1998, spending every day in the same spaces, on the same stages. And then the rumors started. Corrupt had been with her, bought the ring, and was all in. Then people started calling. People always call. Foxy and DMX in the studio. Foxy and DMX doing this, doing that. And then it wasn't just the studio anymore. According to Foxy, it was Rough Riders member Eve who went back to Corrupt and said something was going on between her and DMX. Foxy denied everything, said nothing happened, that DMX had a crush, that Eve blew the whole thing out of proportion and lit a match on a situation that didn't need to be touched. But in hip-hop, rumors don't need to be true to be dangerous. They just need to spread. And what happened next made everything 10 times worse. January 26, 1999. Foxy Brown drops her album China Doll. And right there on the track list was a song called Dog and a Fox featuring DMX. The title alone had people talking. But according to Corrupt, the original concept for that record was supposed to be his. He and Foxy were going to make that song together. Then she went and made it with X instead. That was it for Corrupt. He felt like New York was piling on. Nas had already weighed in publicly, and now this. He was done being diplomatic about it. While recording his second album, Corrupt made a decision. He wasn't going to hint at anything. He was going to put it all on wax and let the world hear every word. He recorded Calling Out Names, a full diss track aimed at DMX and several other New York rappers. It leaked before the album even dropped, and the streets went crazy. Years later, Corrupt admitted that a lot of the anger wasn't even entirely about DMX. People had been feeding him information, pumping him up, and DMX just happened to be the last straw, the name that broke everything loose. In his own words, he bought the cart before the horse. Real men handle things man to man, not through records. But he was angry, and he let it all go at once. The diss was direct. He accused X of going after Foxy, said he could have her, and then issued a warning that everyone in the culture heard loud and clear. If DMX ever set foot on the West Coast, he would be stripped and beaten. Every grievance, the check-in, the Foxy situation, the stolen concept, was wrapped into one record playing across the entire country. So how did DMX respond? December 21st, 1999. He dropped, and then there was X. And on that album was Party Up. Most people heard it as a club anthem. Hip-hop fans who were paying attention heard something else entirely. No names were dropped, but everybody knew exactly who he was talking about. The beat invited you to dance. The bars were aimed directly at someone. What made it the perfect response was that it wasn't just a diss, it was a global hit. It played in every club, every arena, every movie soundtrack. It became one of the biggest party anthems in the world, and Corrupt had to hear it everywhere he went. But while the beef was still playing out on wax, the real world caught up in the most violent way possible. October 17, 1999. Corrupt is at Echo Sound Studios in Los Angeles wrapping up his album. Without any warning, gunshots erupt outside on the patio. His bodyguard Dwayne Dri is shot multiple times in the chest and dies at the scene. 2 other artists are also hit while Corrupt and Daz are inside. People started pointing fingers immediately, and the name they kept landing on was DMX. A spokesperson released a statement quickly. DMX was in Miami recording his album and had no knowledge of the situation. DMX denied any involvement publicly and said he was furious that his name was being attached to it. No charges were ever filed against him. The shooter was later identified as Timothy Joseph McGee, a highly feared shot caller from a rival gang. The resolution came quietly. January 17, 2000. DMX is at the American Music Awards taking questions from reporters. Someone brings up the beef with Corrupt and everything that had been building for over a year. How are you dealing with the conflict with Corrupt? His answer, first of all, there is no conflict with Corrupt. That was it. Ice cold. No explanation, no statement, no build-up. Just a dismissal. And that moment said more than any diss track ever could. Party Up was still playing everywhere. The rumors were still circulating. And DMX walked through Los Angeles like none of it had ever mattered. In 2005, Corrupt dropped Against the Grain and brought up DMX one more time, but the energy behind it was different. It didn't carry the same weight. Whatever had existed between them had already run its course. Then in 2017, nearly 20 years after all of this started, they ended up in the same airport at the same time. Lex. Corrupt's brother Hump spotted X across the terminal and told him. Corrupt said, "Go tell him I said, come holla at me." And he did. They sat there in that airport, missed their flights, and just talked, 2 men who had been through something real, crossing paths by chance with no cameras, no audience, no agenda. According to Corrupt, the conversation was calm and genuine. They talked until they had nothing left to say, then they went their separate ways and left everything exactly where it belonged in the past. Corrupt said he was glad it happened before DMX passed away. Because it was real. Just 2 men, no setup, no performance. And that's how DMX moved through the world. He didn't check in when they told him to. He didn't back down when they threatened him. He didn't respond the way anyone expected. And when it was finally over, he didn't make a production out of that either. He was the same man at a gas station with Fat Joe that he was at a press conference at the AMAs. He never adjusted who he was based on who was watching or what was at stake. He just kept moving exactly the way he wanted and let the rest of the world figure out how to deal with it. There will never be another DMX. And this story is exactly why. Rest in peace to the dog. If you made it this far, drop something in the comments. We'd love to know what you think. Make sure you check out the other videos on the screen, and if you're new here, hit that subscribe button for more stories like this every week. We'll see you in the next one.